All right, so Mr. Raymond would be entertaining some questions.
To your point about the content that the fan is producing, and to something that I probably identify as a hello, yes, something that I probably would identify as a challenge with the media. And I don't know how you would suggest this be addressed, because when we look at the content that a lot of us are getting in the region, that content is modeled from a European/North American perspective. And I think what some media houses have been doing, I don't know, knowingly or unknowingly, is modeling their content in a similar fashion. Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to drive users, that's what's going to drive revenue. So how do they form that balance in getting the conversation to be more regional, as opposed to seeing a method in the North America, or seeing a method in Europe that is currently working, where they're getting tons of revenue in order to, sustain themselves?
Well, I mean, there's no simple answer to the question.
But what I would say to you, and the reason that when I spoke, I started off and I gave some time to the work of Pervez Hoodboy, the reason I did that is because we have people of excellence in the global south doing this work in their own courageous and unconventional and eloquent way. Hoodboy is just one of the brothers doing the work. There are a lot of people. So there actually are channels. I would describe it as that. They actually have channels in places like Facebook. Not Facebook. Facebook is a bad example. Twitter. They have channels in Twitter. So if you go and you connect to Pervez, or you come and you connect to me, and then you see who we are connected to, you can actually get connected to a different discourse. I'm not saying we have all the answers or anything, but you get connected to a different discourse around the possibilities in your region. I mean, while we're talking about a narrative, let me just bounce a quick point that I should have said in my main address. That one of the things that sort of gave me a grim chuckle when I looked at Joel Simon's distress over President Trump was that he was very distressed about the whole thing about the election having been distorted, yeah? And the Russian thing and all that sort of thing. And I asked myself, as I started off in my remarks, I didn't make this point then, I'll make it now. I asked myself, so what? Because that's what they've been doing down here all the time. That happened in Guyana with Chedi and them. That happened in Grenada. That happened in 1976 in Jamaica with Manley, and I could give examples here till the morning. Okay, that's how they operate. They used to call it psychological operations. And it was perfectly acceptable. They went to college to study that, All of them in the CIA and all of these things. They went to college MI6. The people who set up Cambridge Analytica all came out of MI6. But the instant it's used in your own electoral process, we have a situation of crisis, and we slam brakes, and we want to have a discussion. A discussion we've been trying to have for 60 years. Okay? So we have to be real about it. In a second, somebody else, yeah. We have to be real about it and understand that those methods of shifting the conversation to get an electoral result are not new. It's only new because it's being used against them. As we say at home, do so and like so. So there's somebody at the back, I think. Yeah, he has a microphone and we'll come to you. Yeah.
Hi, Afra.
Yes.
I wanted if you could talk some more about what we do about the media having power and responsibility and keeping that in check. But that's only because we know the reality of the ownership of Caribbean media, including here in Guyana. It depends on who owns what, that you get whatever information in the evening or in the newspaper. So, how do we achieve that in a place like I'm happy you mentioned Chedi and them just now, because that's what I mean. Guyana has been stifled this environment politics since independence.
Of course.
But today we still have whatever Master Williams says gets in the Chronicle, whatever Barrett says gets into the Times. How do we keep in check that sort of responsibility that we have?
Yeah, that's a big one. I don't have an answer. There's no simple answer. Okay. One of the things that is tantalizing is that coming up from the airport yesterday morning, I was speaking with one of my colleagues, and I was discussing a website that is called TriniHub out of Trinidad, where all the radio stations and TV stations are in one app. And you can just click it, even anywhere in the world you are, and look at TV, or listen to the radio, and so on. And there's another app, the name of which I forgot, that has all of the TV stations in Trinidad and Tobago, and all the media, newspapers, and all the radio in one app. And then this colleague in the car said to me, to my surprise, that some years ago, she had belonged to some kind of an app or some kind of an organization where there was something like that across the whole Caribbean. So you could click on it and get stories along a particular theme, whether it was the economy or sport or whatever, across the Caribbean. I don't know what happened to the app, but certainly we need to put some effort into imagining how it would be like to build something like a Huffington Post, which is what you're speaking to, something that is a broader platform than merely a print house, some kind of an electronic house that, and I'm using the word house just as a device. It's not really a place, it's a virtual place that can collate views and put them out there. And of course you have the question of editorial control, because if you don't have editorial control, you can have a rogue journalist with a mission of their own, a kind of suicide bomber kind of thing. So they just want to blow up somebody, and they blow up themselves in the process and blow up the whole building. So you really have to have controls. We don't like to talk about controls and freedom of expression, but even internally, we have to have these controls. Because some crazy person could X out the whole exercise. So I don't have anything more than that to answer, unfortunately. I think, Miranda, you want the microphone? This lady wanted the microphone. This lady, yeah, sorry.
You did say that the media made Trump and Brexit,
It seems so to me.
and that we've seen America and England's stupidness.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you relate this to the Caribbean media, that is?
Mm-hmm.
What stupidness are we doing, or what stupidness are we not doing?
I was merely asking the question, Miranda, to answer you. I was asking the question of colleagues. Who are we enabling? Who are the interesting people that we know they lie? We know they're all about stupidness. Who are the interesting people that we are giving airtime now and column inches? Okay? Who are they? Who are the clowns that we letting them on and we let them talk for 5 minutes? I mean, after all, you can talk for 5 minutes and things. And these people are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Who are they? Are there boring people who are doing important work that we need to promote? Are there boring people? Who are those people? Are they boring organizations who do that work? And this is the kind of question that I could just lob it to the audience, because I don't know the details of what it is you all do and who you all have to engage with in the course of your daily work. I came in yesterday morning and so. But I understand what the territory is. You can get tempted to engage on a particular level. And interestingly, you could want to tell yourself that the person you're engaging with is stupid or a buffoon. And it could be somebody like Donald, who just put on a mask, like the Joker mask. So you're looking like he's the Joker. But when you take off the mask, it's a different thing. Okay? It could be something like that, where you tell yourself that. The other thing we have to do is to beware of a false sense of superiority. So those of us who have some education and some profile in the media, you could develop a false sense of superiority about other people in the media. So people who do talk show things, or people who do a fashion page, or you can develop all kind of complexes develop. So you develop a complex that this person kind of thing because, and it could actually get to the point of developing a complex that the problems we have in this society or in that society is because stupid people get into power. It quickly translates to that. But in fact, we talked about Brexit and we talked about President Trump, but I want to make the point that some of the biggest catastrophes humanity has suffered through were done by people who are extremely, extremely intelligent. But they're talking about World War II with the Nazis. Okay? When they're talking about the nuclear bomb that exploded over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, those are some of the top brains in the whole of America who built those bombs and sent them to blow up whole cities and so. And I could go on with plenty examples, the slave trade and so. Those are the cleverest people in the room. So the stupid people are not the problem. Let us get real. It is the clever people who are extremely immoral and cunning to disguise a fish to look like an egg. And you would tell yourself you're eating an egg. Everybody in the room could see you eating fish. And that's what is going on out here. So we have to be aware of that false sense of superiority in terms of how we see ourselves and we see the other people. Some of them just have on a mask because it is what it is. I think somebody else, the young man, yeah.
Yes, sir. You spoke about regionalism. Yet every month we see a meeting or a committee being formed, especially at the level of CARICOM. Do you believe or do you think they're not addressing the relevant topics, or topics are being left out in these meetings that are not fostering regionalism?
Well,
I think that regionalism is something that people have fluctuating commitments to. So we have episodes that can be very embarrassing. So we had a situation, I think it was 18 months ago, where my own country, Trinidad and Tobago, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago was at that time chairman of CARICOM and attended certain meetings. And when points were being put to him with respect to certain commitments entered into by a Prime Minister from 10 years ago, in respect to the CLICO bailout and so on, and how much money Trinidad was supposed to pay to those people and so, he basically wouldn't discuss it. So he was in the chair, and colleagues who were also heads of government were saying to him, listen, what about this? And he wouldn't discuss it. And that caused a real serious set of tension. This is one example I can give you. So CARICOM is something that I believe we have to try again to make it happen. Whether that will actually happen is way outside of mine. I would continue to call for it. And I'm suggesting to colleagues in the media that it's something that we need to continue to call for and start that conversation. So there's a role in the media for things that are frivolous and things that are trendy, and of course all of that is part of a balanced publication. But there also has to be a channel where we can have these long-term discussions of a more strategic nature, and then that needs to be something that is nourished and nurtured and so on if we're going to make it happen.
In the face of access of information law,
Yes.
we can't really use,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the other available avenues we could use with information that is already maybe out there in public, given your own investigative work in Trinidad?
okay. Well,
The first thing I would say, Mr. Agobir, is that we need to get a proper Access to Information Act in Guyana. And I'm familiar with the Guyanese Act to the extent of knowing that you have a commissioner appointed by the president. The application has to be answered in 60 days, and there's a list of exemptions that very parallel to the Trinidad and Tobago 1999 Freedom of Information Act. There are two things that are striking about the Guyanese Act. The first one is that documents that are submitted to Cabinet are exempt from disclosure for 20 years. In Trinidad and Tobago, it's 10 years. I think 20 years is way too long. It should be disclosed on a faster time scale. Something that's 20 years old is literally an old, dried up historical document. And it needs to be modern. That provision needs to be modernized. The second thing I would mention is a piece of law that's not there, which is that, as far as I'm aware, the judicial review, the opportunity to judicially review an administrative decision doesn't exist in Guyanese law. You don't have a judicial review act that's been implemented. And just to explain how that is linked back to the freedom of information question, is that is how I made my legal challenges in Trinidad and Tobago, because a public authority receiving an application for information under the Freedom of Information Act has to respond in accordance with the law. If they fail to respond in accordance with the law, you then have grounds for the judicial review, but you have to have a judicial review act that gives you a channel to go to the court and say, hey, this authority did not comply with the law. And without the judicial review avenue, you're not going to have much of a channel. You need to also, to answer your question, you need to also deal with the question of whistleblowers. What are the provisions for whistleblowing? And of course, Section 18, which is, and the whole of that cybercrime bill really, Section 18 and the cybercrime bill, actually seems to play some of those operations, whistleblowing, that somebody would obtain information from inside of some official place and send that for you. And then you decide to do a story on it because it's a matter of public concern. And now all of a sudden you find yourself facing a criminal penalty of 3 to 10 years in prison and so on and so on. So that needs to be also rectified. There's a mismatch in between whistleblowing and the cybercrime. And we, and I'm saying we because as a society, we have to decide where we stand in this question of information, where we stand in this question of growth and development. Can you have growth and development if you have these serious restrictions on information? If it's not a national defense matter, there's no real serious grounds for having continued those protections and shields and so on. And you will actually restrict discussions to people who know. And what you find over and over is that in fact the cabinet will be making decisions. It happens in Trinidad and Tobago too. The cabinet will be making decisions. And some of the most expert advice is either not considered or not in the room. And I want to share a little story with you all, because I've been experiencing this thing. I want to share a little story with you all. There's a way that we, despite all of our pretensions of being bold, and we educated, and we liberated, and we radical, and we are taking them on and things, there's a way that we've been educated to believe that those people, the ministers and the senators and the people in government and so, are somehow working. And I want to say from my own experience that that is not necessarily so. We had a law in Trinidad and Tobago that we were trying to get passed when I was a lobbyist working as chairman of the JCC, construction industry. And that law concerned public procurement and the disposal of public properties, and anti-corruption law. It's a very complicated law. We are the ones who wrote it. Trinidad and Tobago is interesting. We have government, members of parliament, we have opposition members of parliament, and then we have people that we call independent senators. Independent senators are a really kind of odd creature of our constitutional arrangements. The general assumption is that independent senators are better educated than the average member of parliament. That's normally a correct assumption. That they are actually more successful financially and in their professional life than an ordinary member of parliament. That's also true. They also tend to be people either they've just retired or they're about to retire, so they're not hungry looking for a contract or anything like that. They're at that stage of comfort and they could give some service to the public. And the general assumption is that you would get and they're non-partisan, they don't belong to either party. You could get a level of quality service and input from those people. That is the general assumption. What we discovered was shocking. I would never forget this. So we tried for 6 months to get a meeting with the independent senators to discuss these proposals we had made. There are 9 independent senators in Trinidad and Tobago Senate, in the parliament. Eventually, after 6 months, we got the meeting. So my office is calling their office and back and forth. And eventually they agreed on a particular date. I won't forget certain dates, February the 4th of 2013, it was a Tuesday. We gone there. 4 of them attended, out of the 9. Because the people are slackers. Let us say it straightforward, slackers. They're in primary school, they will get licks. Listen to me. I had a delegation of 10 people, we talking to them. Out of the 4 people in the room, the independent senators, 4 of them, only 1 of them had bothered to read what we had submitted. We had submitted it 10 months before. And it was as plain as the nose on your face that only 1 person in the room had read it. The other 3 were just, you would just realize somebody just talking stupidness. They have not read what you send them. And they're just talking to say something. Because they halfway you could stop them and say, stop, look at clause 36, because some people say, oh, that's there already? Okay. Just waste of time. So the point I'm making, and I'm criticizing myself, because at that time, before February 2013, I told myself that I understood what was what and who was who. I didn't. I do now. So for those of you who have this job of holding people to account, be focused, do your work, focus on what is decisive, not what is merely interesting or true. And I'll leave it there for now, unless Nasima you want to. Thanks.
Any other questions?